Today we're going to do a quick field strip of the IMI Jericho 941, so stick around. Welcome back, crew, and today we're going to do a quick field strip on the IMI Jericho 941. Now, realize first of all this is the IMI version, the all metal version, the old school 941. But we're going to do it a little bit differently. So I'll go ahead and first of all explain that. We're going to do this blindfolded. This is part of the hashtag blind challenge that was put out there by Patriot in the Dark. The purpose of this, doing this blindfolded, is to better explain with my words exactly what is going on while we're doing the field strip, so that those that might be visually impaired can better understand what's going on. I will apologize because as I'm blindfolded and doing this, I'm not watching the camera, so things can get out of frame. So if you are visually capable and watching this, hopefully if things do get out of frame, then I'm walking you through the process well enough verbally that it's not going to be an issue for you. So here we go. And first of all, we need to understand orientation here. The pistol is facing muzzle to the left, grip to the right, slide is away from me. It's in that orientation. We want to be really careful starting off that we do not get our fingers inside the trigger guard around the trigger. Of course, the Jericho 941 is a model that if you feel around on the right side up at the top of the pistol, the back of the slide, you can feel that hammer. It is hammer fired, okay? So without that hammer being back, we don't have to worry about an issue too much, but safety comes first. So what we want to do is start with the grip on the right side. Let's fill that out a little bit, and as we run up on the left side of that grip, we're going to find the trigger guard, and we'll be able to feel around just a little bit and notice that's the trigger. That's where we want to stay away from. Okay, so if we're on the grip there, the right side, we're on the grip, you're going to feel around again on the inside of that, and we should be able to find a little round button in between the grip and the trigger, grip and the trigger guard there. Yeah, that is going to be your mag release. So go ahead and depress that, and then that should release the magazine, which is at the bottom of the grip. Again, that's going to be on your right, so just kind of reach down to the bottom of the grip. You should feel that magazine come out, and you can set that to the side. Next, we need to make sure that there's not one chambered. It's really important that we pay attention to muzzle direction. Okay, the muzzle is pointing left. It's in a safe direction. We want to keep it that way until we can verify that there's nothing in the chamber. Now, in order to do this, we need to locate the slide release, and the slide release on this is actually also the takedown pin. But again, get that right hand, feel along the grip, run up, you'll find that mag release button. Continue to move on up towards the slide, and you'll find that release there. It's long, it's flat on the left side, and then it comes up, has a raised portion for the lever there, a spot kind of serrated a little bit, kind of textured on the right end of that. So what we want to do now is we want to tilt the firearm up and grip it with our right hand and have that thumb resting on the slide release, slide catch that we just located. And we're going to rack the slide backwards again, making sure that we keep the muzzle in a safe direction. Rack the slide all the way back. Push up on that slide release. That will lock the slide into place. Okay, it's locked into place now. Muzzle's in a safe direction. Now if we feel along the top of the slide here, we will find the opening. We'll be able to run our pinky down in there. You could also use a punch or something to feel around. Just make sure that there's nothing in the chamber there. Odds are, if there were something in the chamber, it would have ejected it. When we pulled the slide back, we would have heard it hit the table. Okay. So now that we've verified that everything is safe and clear, go ahead and depress the slide catch, the slide lock. That will drop the slide. Okay. Now we want to, there was a reason we located the hammer, the rear of the slide earlier. Now we've got, you'll notice if you go back to the back of the slide, this being hammer fired, the hammer is cocked back. That's not a problem on this model though, because it has a decocker. So if your right hand and your fingers are have found the hammer that's cocked back on the right side at the rear of the slide, just move forward a little ways along the slide and you will find a little lever. Actually, this lever is present on both sides of the slide, so you can tilt that pistol up where you can actually feel both sides, and you'll feel the lever on both sides. If you push that down, it will then decock the hammer. So take that right hand, whatever feel of that hammer, you should feel that it's dropped. So that firearm is no longer cocked. And from here, we're pretty much ready to proceed with the field strip. Now, with the slide lock, like I said, it's also the takedown pin. Again, if we tilt the firearm up toward us and feel on the opposite side of that slide release, what you're going to have is you're going to have a little nub sticking out, right? And that is there for a reason. The reason for that is to start the process of pushing the slide lock out of place so that we can then take the slide off. Now I find that a punch is really helpful. Something cylindrical, round, you can kind of get on that pin and get it started. We've got it on that pin now, and we're going to kind of hold the pistol up. Just hold the slide up on the pistol just so it's elevated off the table just a little bit, because as we push this out, it's got to have room. If it's sitting flat on the table, obviously you're not going to be able to push that slide release lever too well. So push that with your punch, push it down. It will feel there. You'll notice it's flush, it's below the frame, that little nub is. Now we can flip it back over to the side where the slide lock is facing up, and we can proceed to twist a little bit and pull that slide lock out. And you can kind of tell, again, it's got the flat surface that we felt of earlier on the left side of that. On the right side, it's got just a little bit of a grip or serration on it. Kind of feel the lever. If you feel, you can feel the pin that we just pushed through, of course. And then if we move on that back side where the pin is to the right, we will notice this little part sticking out. It's a little catch. It's got a little groove in it. That is what actually acts as the slide stop. So it two functions in one. We'll set that to the side. We don't need that. And now the next step is simply to grab the grip with your right hand, grab the slide with your left hand, and slide the slide off. And now we have the slide off of the frame. By the way, we had our grip in our right hand, slide in our left hand. We actually pulled the slide to the left, by the way. Obviously, it's got to go toward the muzzle end. Now, before we get to the slide and the barrel and all of that good stuff, let's talk about the frame just a little bit. There's something that we need to pay attention to on the frame itself, because when we go back together with this, it's going to be important. It's actually two things. Number one, feel inside the frame there, and on either side at the top of the frame you should feel a little channel or a little groove. Okay, there's also a groove on the slide. Those have to mate up. That's where the slide will slide back into place on the frame, so keep that in mind. Also, travel over, find the area where the slide stop and take down pin there and all was. You'll find the round hole, of course, where that pin went through. Just to the right of it, there will be kind of a little square hole. Okay, that is where the slide catch, the slide stop, that's where that goes through the frame. So just be mindful of those two places on the frame, and we should be okay when we go back together with it. Now we'll set that off to the side, not important right now. So let's grab our slide here, and again, muzzle end is facing to the left, and we can identify that real easy by running our fingers along the top of the slide, and we can feel the little single nub there on the left at the top. That's going to be the front sight, and then of course on the back end we can feel a little grooved rear sight, a little dovetailed rear sight on the back side. Rear side is considerably larger and turned the opposite direction, by the way. So let's take and let's turn that slide with the sights down, because now we're going to work on taking this barrel out, because if we wanted to clean everything properly, we would need to do that. And as we feel around on here, if we're moving from left to right, feeling on this, as we move along, we can feel the slide, of course, there. It's fairly smooth. We'll get back, we'll drop off of the slide, and you'll start to feel a spring. Okay, there's your guide rod and guide rod spring. So pretty simple to get that off. Once you find the back of the spring there, keep moving to the right until you run out of spring and you found it. Just take the back side of that spring and guide rod, put pressure on it to the left, lift up just a little bit, let off pressure, and you can pull the guide rod and guide rod spring out. Now the Jericho 941, this guide rod and spring assembly is it's a sealed, or not necessarily sealed, but it's a captured, I should say, assembly. So just you can do a little cleaning, spray it down, make sure it's not all gunked up with stuff, and should be good to go. But we'll set that to the side. Really no more disassembly there. Next we've got the barrel. So again, go back to the slide. This time we're going to kind of feel along from the right to the left. As we move along on the bottom side of that slide, you're going to pretty easily find that barrel. There'll be a raised spot there. It's kind of smooth. It's got several different angles to it as it goes along. And then if you move along, you'll feel like a half moon shape on the left side of that raised spot, okay, on that barrel. That is where the guide rod kind of sits into place. Hard to tell that without looking at it anyway. It's really hard to tell that with that guide rod spring in there. But yeah, that's where the guide rod sits in place. That's why it's got that shape. So that's your barrel. So really simply, just take that piece, kind of pinch it with your fingers, push forward just a little bit, pick it up, and pull it out. And you have removed now the barrel. And so you're disassembled, you're ready to clean up the slide, the barrel, the spring, everything you need to do. Going back in, opposite procedure all the way around. Take that barrel again. We want to make sure that our slide is orientated correctly. And the easiest way to probably determine that is by the sights. So I'm going to flip this slide around. I can tell I've got my little front sight on the left. I've got my wider rear sight on the right, so that's going to be correct. Then we'll pick up the barrel. The smooth part of the barrel is to the left. The lugs that we were feeling of earlier, all of that to the right. We're going to flip this up, and we're going to start to put that barrel back into the slide. Kind of feel down in there with your finger. You can tell. Set it all the way down till it bottoms out in the slide. Start sliding it forward ever so slowly, and it will drop into place. It's pretty much that simple. Once it drops into place, you can kind of pull back to the right on it just a little bit to make sure that it's not too far forward, but it shouldn't be. Everything on this is machined fairly well, so that should not be a problem. Now, one thing I didn't mention before, why? Because I'm blindfolded, I just thought about it, is this guide rod spring assembly here that we're going to put in next. It has two different ends, okay? So if it gets backwards when you lay it down, you could spin it around or something like that, of course. You need to be aware of that, okay? With the orientation we are now, muzzle end to the left, rear of the slide to the right, yeah, we gotta be mindful of which direction we're putting this in. Now, if you feel of both ends of this guide rod, one end is going to be kind of smooth and rounded. The other one has a little nub that sticks out. The end that has the nub that sticks out is going to be the end that goes towards the back end of the slide. It's going to be the end that sits in that half moon shape portion of the barrel. So we're going to take this spring, I'm going to start that back into the slide as well, and it's only going to go so far. We're going to make sure that it's sitting on top of the barrel there, and then just like removing it, we just reverse the process. We're going to push forward on that spring assembly just a little bit, push down, and it should catch in the groove of that barrel. So now let's bring our frame back into play. And again, remember those grooves I mentioned. You can also take the opportunity to feel along the sides, outside edges rather, of the slide. You can feel that it has grooves. So we're going to take the slide in our left hand, we're going to take the grip frame in our right hand, and we're going to attempt to mate up those grooves. Shouldn't be too difficult there. It should be machined well enough it goes back into place. Push that sucker all the way back as far as it will go without putting tension on the spring. So next we will grab our slide stop / takedown pin here. Obviously the pin, the long pin that's protruding, is what we need to put through the hole we felt of earlier in the side of the receiver. Again, remember your orientation, that you've got the muzzle end to the left, rear of the pistol to the right, and we're gonna put that start putting that pin in that hole. Now remember too that the slide stop portion of this little piece has to go in that square area that we felt of earlier. So what we're going to do is we're going to push back on this slide, and you're going to get some tension because of the recoil spring, just a little bit. It doesn't take much, but just a little bit as we push down on that slide release and the takedown pin. So if everything is lined up properly, the pin should go all the way through both sides of the frame. That one little spot that acts as the slide stop should go through that little square. Don't want to say hole, because hole kind of means that it's round and it's not, it's square. But if it does, then everything should be flush. At that point you can tilt the pistol up, sort of make sure that little nub is back on the right side again. From there, I can do a function check. Give her a good rack, push to the left on the slide, to the right with the grip frame. and since there's no mag in there, it's not going to catch. But work it a couple times, you should be all good there. If you want to check function, just make sure everything's working on the slide stop again, just like we did when we ran the safety check. Grab hold of that slide, push it to the left, push the grip to the right at the same time that you're pushing up on that slide stop. Surely by now you're familiar with the location on that. Let off pressure a little bit on the slide and it is locked into place. Everything is good. Remember again, once you drop that slide, where the decocker is at the rear of the slide there, the little lever that's on both sides, push that down, we'll decock the hammer. At that point, we can grab our magazine. Gotta remember the orientation of our magazine as well. Typically with pistols, you've got a plastic follower at the top of that magazine, right? So we want to pay attention to the orientation there, of course. You'll be able to feel plastic on one side of the top of the magazine, metal on the other. In our particular orientation here, the plastic of the follower there is going to go to the left. So we'll start inserting that back up into the grip. Push it up all the way till it clicks, and we are done. So there you go, crew. Filled strip on the IMI Jericho 941. Done blindfolded. Hopefully that helps those out there not only looking for a little more information on the 941, but those that may be visually impaired. Hopefully I explained the process well enough. You would be able to do this on your own as well. I want to invite anybody out there that creates content online to take the hashtag blind challenge. And if you do, remember to use the hashtag blind challenge and hashtag Patriot in the Dark. I want to thank everybody for watching, and until next time, don't forget to chain fire freedom.